So we'll get started now. There's still a lot of people kind of logging on at the same time here, so you'll be popping on as we get going here. First of all, again, for those that just popped on, this is Mark Gold. Although it says Dan Nagy organizer, it's little old bald me. So thanks again for everybody for joining us this afternoon slash evening, depending on which coast you're on. Let me open this real quick. A couple of things. Again, we're going to be talking about our new financing, and Scott Carson was supposed to be joining me, but at the last minute, not able to with some of the preparations for Noteworthy that's going on. So he and I will be talking a little bit more. Let me shut that. He and I will be talking a little bit more about this for those of you that will be out at Noteworthy. That's kind of the official rollout for this, but you guys, we wanted to give a little bit of a heads up. We have a lot of roadshow alumni, as well as some of Scott's mastermind and mentor students, as well as some others. So we just want to give you guys a little bit of a preview and kick the tires, so to speak, on this. So a couple of things real quick. What you guys see in the background here is the Note.guru site. This is kind of the unofficial home of everything roadshow, financing, and it's this is kind of the catch-all for the various businesses that I'm involved with, whether it be Noteworks or the American Home Recovery Fund, as well as the roadshow. So if you haven't been here, just real quick, the financing docs are going to be over here under the docs and links section. We've got resources for everybody here. This is just an open page. It'll be listed in here once we put it up here in the next day or two. If you haven't seen any of the videos from the roadshow, I recommend you get a great kick out of some of that stuff. We've got them over here on the videos page. You can just kind of scroll through, and that's my favorite. If you haven't seen the cemetery video, you definitely want to see that one. Everybody who's been on the road shows, you guys have seen the members only section, so that's there. We built in a pretty cool ROI calculator. Feel free to use this. After watching Scott do this a number of times on his Excel spreadsheets, I kind of took that and built it into a web page where you just fill in your yellow variables, and then it should automatically pop out what your ROIs are going to be if you're using financing, and then your various exit strategies, whether it's foreclosure to REO to rental, or modifying, or selling it as a reperforming loan. So again, some basic stuff to really help you guys out a little bit as you're making your decisions. And then for those of you, this up here, I'm not going to play this now, but this is Scott put this together. It's about a 3.5-minute video of this last weekend St. Louis and Kansas City roadshow. We had a blast. We saw some amazing assets out there, and we got some serious ROI going on out there as well. So the roadshow attendees from this weekend are putting in offers now. Previous roadshow attendees, you'll be seeing this list after 5 o'clock tomorrow, bearing any disasters of travel out to Vegas, and then you guys will be able to kind of take a peek at them as well. Also, lastly, on the homepage, if you're not on our bid list to look at our assets, you'll join that by clicking that button there. If you haven't gotten our free ebook, you'll go into over there. And then our big launch for this week at Noteworthy is the relaunch of Noteworks version 2, which we're real excited about. So you can find out more information there. Real important, we're going to be starting in the month of October. We're going to be giving away a setup fee, which is regularly $349. One lucky person a month that likes us and is on the Facebook page will be getting that. And if you're already a Noteworks subscriber and you win that month, you'll get a month for free. So that's it on that. Okay, enough of that stuff. Let's talk about what you guys are really interested in here. And just let me, before we do that, let's see. Okay, good. Yeah, we got quite a few people on here. So, okay, so let me put it in presentation mode. All right, so the financing that we've been talking about for the last couple of 2-3 months, we finally have it put together. It's through a private fund out of the East Coast. They've given Scott and myself marketing exclusivity to roll this out. So we are not actually writing the checks on the financing, but with the exclusive portal to be able to put it out there. Again, it's specifically for non-performing loans. So while we are a kind of smaller community, We're starting it out with $10 million in funding, and it'll be scaling it up from there. And you'll understand how the model works here shortly. Pretty exciting. It's again, it's something that exists for the small guy. The thing that took the longest was figuring out how to structure it for the newbies in here. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of us are new to this business. We see great opportunity. We see great assets. We see great, potential returns that we could make. But we need a little bit of hand holding on some of this. And guess what? Scott and I are there to help with that. And also the lender is comfortable enough with the way the structure is that they're willing to step to the plate as well. So let's get right into it here. Best way to equate this, think of it as the equivalent of fix and flip money. It's not meant to be long-term financing. This is not, if you were going to buy a performing portfolio of loans, this is not the financing for you. This is more for buying your non-performing loans. Get them either reperforming or turn them into an REO and sell the property and get out of the deal within, maybe a year or 2 years at the most. So I'm going to go right down the list here, and this is almost finalized to where we'll be able to send it out. Like I said, I'll be posting it up on the website probably in the next day or two. You guys will get an email when that is available. So this is for acquisition and for recapitalization of your existing loan portfolio. Real important to understand. So if you're looking to buy a new pool, you can use it, or if you're sitting on 100 assets, whatever the value may be, you can use those as collateral to recapitalize to go buy your next one. So we're pretty stoked about that. Maximum leverage, and there's going to be a couple of changes as we move down the road, which will be favorable changes. I'll explain those in a moment. Maximum leverage right now is up to 65% of the collateral purchase price. So again, doesn't matter what the value is. A lot of us in here, a lot of us on the call are ex-mortgage, real estate. People that have played the game of appraised value versus purchase price. This is strictly on purchase price because again, the assets we're buying sometimes we're picking up if we're lucky at 20 to 25 to 35 cents of current value. So it's going to be an augmentation for you to be able to put alongside what you're buying with. We're going to speak specifically to acquisition loans right now. Then we'll talk about existing portfolios after. Minimum loan size we want to be $250,000. So that's an aggregate. That might be one loan. That might be 10 loans in your portfolio or that you're buying. So minimum loan amount $250,000. Loan term 12 months. There's going to be one 12-month renewal option available for I think the fee was 1% on that. I'll put that in there once I have that nailed down completely. Loan repayment is going to be interest only, so it's not an amortizing loan. And the repayment schedule is monthly on a 360-day year. Escrow account, 10% of the loan balance held for drawdown for servicing and insurance costs. That'll make sense in a little bit when we talk a little bit more about it. But in a nutshell, if you're buying your loan, what you're going to be doing is taking the money that you're going to be using for paying your servicers, paying your loss mitigation, whatever that is. If it's, let's say it's $1,000 that you're planning on spending for a deed in lieu of foreclosure, or if it's, $2,000 or $3,000 that you're planning on using for your foreclosure costs, that's going to be put into an escrow account to be drawn down on that. So they're not taking any money. They're just making sure it's on account so you have the ability and wherewithal to be able to get that deal work through the system. Interest rates are going to vary from 13 to 14%, points being 3 to 4 points. What we're working on, and probably after the first, let's call it 4 to 6 months of having this rolled out, we're going to put it together where there's a stack of those that want less leverage. So in other words, this is the pricing for 65% leverage. Well, what if I only wanted to add in 35% leverage or 50% leverage? That's less liability and less risk for the lender. Therefore, the rates and points will be a little bit less on that side too. So we'll be building out a matrix once we get the bugs worked out and we get a few of the deals, through the system, and then we start seeing what that looks like. It's set up as a repurchase agreement. So the simplest way, let's just read right through this. On the closing date, you will enter into a loan purchase agreement with the lender, which essentially provides lender with temporary title to the collateral over the term of the loan. So in other words, they're going to have full access to the title or the assignments of mortgages, so to speak, over the term of the loan. Although they're the temporary holder of the collateral, you, the borrower, are responsible for managing the loans on their behalf. So they're going to have title to the property. You have a repurchase agreement to be able to buy it back from them. and then you're going to be actually doing the asset management or doing whatever the work it is. And when I say asset management, you're still going to be using, if you're using Land Home for your loss mitigation or whoever it may be, you'll still be working with whatever vendors you're using, but you'll still be managing that process. The lender does not want to be managing the process, obviously. Once the loans have been worked out, you have the exclusive right to repurchase each loan back at the repurchase price. So repurchase price is the lender loan amount plus accrued interest. So they're not marking anything up on there. You're paying your interest payments monthly, and then whatever the balance, whatever the loan amount, original loan amount, because remember it was set up as an interest-only loan, whatever that balance for that particular asset is, plus whatever the accrued interest is, that's the repurchase price to get that asset released. And released by, this might be, you've taken it as foreclosure and now you're going to be selling it as an REO. So you have a free structure to do that. The repurchase structure is utilized in order to protect the collateral throughout the term of the loan. Additionally, all collateral files are held with a third-party custodian. Richmond Monroe, who's very, most of us know of them or have used them, they'll be acting as the custodian on these files, which very comfortable from where I'm sitting as well. Key points of the repurchase agreement. Lender is not entitled to any equity. Make sure we got okay, cool. No questions yet. If you get questions, start popping them up there, and then I'll jump on them at kind of an appropriate time, or just wait till the end. Lender is not entitled to any equity in the loan pool once the loans have been paid off. As you successfully exit each individual loan, the net proceeds are applied to the outstanding loan balance until the entire lender loan is paid off. Once completely paid off, title to the collateral pool is transferred back to you. So again, when I said earlier, you want to use this as short-term financing. You're going to use it for your acquisition. As you're selling assets, you're going to pay the loan off, get the lender out of there. Then you have full ability to do whatever you want after that, because some of them might end up being reperforming loans that you want to hold longer term without debt on there. So kind of keep the thought process in those ways for that. Ultimately, you receive all the net profits while lender is limited to a fixed rate of return. Oops. That sounds great. Let me make sure I didn't miss a page there. Nope. Okay. Okay, the initial loan review. In order to get, now also real important to understand, you are not borrowing the money. You as the note owners now, or the note purchasers, are not borrowing the money. The pool is borrowing the money. So these are non-recourse loans. Because of how it's set up as a repurchase agreement, there actually is no borrower other than the actual properties. Somebody asked, is this for first mortgages only? Yes, it is. Correct. Okay, so in order to get the process started, the following evaluation materials are required for each of the loans intended to be financed. Evaluation materials are necessary to confirm the validity of the loan files and your ability to enforce the terms of the loans during the workout process. This comes back to, a lot of us buy from a lot of different sources. The sources that I buy loans from, I have reps and warrants in my contract that say if I did not just buy a legal first mortgage, I have recourse where they're going to buy that loan back. So this is done to make sure that all of the documents are there and that the loans being lent on are legal first mortgages in that case. So what does that mean? We're going to be getting from Richmond Monroe for $25. They're going to get on a collateral exemption report, which means that they're going to get an electronic copy of the file. They're going to go through it. So a lot of you may do this on your own, but they're for the purpose of a loan. They're going to go through and make sure that everything is in there that needs to be there to make it an enforceable loan, so that there are no hiccups where there's an assignment missing that never existed, and no, you can't foreclose on that loan. And now they're left sitting with a loan that's going to end up in, either long-term trying to get something fixed, or it could be a potential problem. So the collateral exemption report's $25. You're going to pay for that. And again, if it's 10 loans, it's 10 times 25. So just look at that as your kind of due diligence closing costs, which at the end of the day, for $25, I'm pretty good at operating my file, so I can go through a file pretty quickly. But some of you, especially the newer guys, it's a cheap insurance policy to make sure that you got a good legal loan there right out the gate. Mortgage loan purchase and sale agreement and interim servicing agreement. So we're going to go through that. And actually, that document's not ready to be released yet, so we'll go through that. That'll probably be next week. We'll have that all completed. It's going to be, for those of you that have already bought loans, It's going to be very similar to what you're already using. All of us as note sellers use pretty much some kind of the same, PSA or purchase and sale agreement. Some verbiage is a little bit different, but for all intent purposes, they are the same. So I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff because most of you guys already know a little bit about this. And we do have a question here. 1 second. What constitutes a document that will be charged $10 per? If there are 5 assignments, is it $10 for each, plus note, plus deed, plus every other document? You know what, Chris? Great question. Let me find that. Let me find out the answer to that one because that was new on there and I didn't catch that. But I'll find that out on a follow up here. Just thinking about that for a second. Maybe that's a cost for them to obtain. Nah. Okay, let me find out exactly what it is. Good question. Okay, so loan sale agreement. We already know what all that's going to have. Now, collateral file abstract exception report. Lender requires the engagement of Richmond Monroe for collateral file abstracting services. Lender will rely upon their expertise to analyze the completeness and validity of the collateral files. Richmond Monroe will accept electronic delivery of the mortgage loan documents with the inclusion of Bailey letter from the existing custodian evidencing the documents in possession. For those of you that don't know what a Bailey letter is, that's a letter that goes from one custodian to the other, certifying that they have in their possession the original documents of A, B, C, and D so that there's no break in chain, and they're certifying on your behalf, and the custodians are typically bonded and licensed to be able to issue documents like that. Okay, we got that one. Richmond Monroe will abstract and ensure all of the following collateral information is present and complete. Original note or lost note affidavit, note endorsements or allonges, recorded mortgage or deed of trust, mortgage assignments, mortgage modification agreements if applicable, mortgage assumption agreements if applicable, mortgage insurance certificate, FHA if applicable, original mortgage title insurance policy, and foreclosure documentation for pending litigations. Second. Okay. Step 2, due diligence. Once your loan files have been initially approved for funding, lender must verify the following. Mortgage lien position. They'll do an open lien search, which is basically an O&E report similar to it. Collateral value, broker price opinion. Borrower information. Lender requires that your ownership entity be a Florida limited liability company since the loan documents are governed under Florida state law. So now once you're past approval, the final due diligence, you have same as if you're getting a regular loan, there's some costs associated with that. BPO, there's a couple of vendors that we have on the list. They have Lenders Alliance on here, but we're also using Valuation Vision. And depending on who you use, if you got a BPO, let's say from Valuation Vision, when you were doing your due diligence to buy them, you'll be able to use that same report for the loan. So where this will be an issue is if you're using, XYZ broker, broker price opinions or us, they're going to want to see their own BPO to make sure that the values are, at least within tolerance of where you think they are from a third party. Open lien search, again, that's kind of an abbreviated O&E report. That's going to be $25 a file, about $100 per property for the BPO. And then to set up a Florida limited liability company, which would be for the pool, would be $120. So that'll be the holding entity for those assets that are going to be lent on. Let's read through those real quick. So, lender, under open lien search, lender requires the engagement of Richmond Monroe to conduct a search of all open liens and corresponding assignments from the date the mortgage trustor or the mortgage deed of trust would assume ownership of the property. Richmond Monroe will perform a quality check and assemble the documents within a client report for each loan outlined in the mortgage schedule. Basically an O&E report. BPO, we talked about that. Florida Limited Liability Company, talked about that. Closing checklist. Congratulations. Now it's time to close the loan. In order to close the loan, lender requires the documents outlined on the closing checklist on the following page. Prior to the closing date, you will wire your portion of the purchase price. This is on a purchase, obviously, into a pre-approved escrow account. Once your funds have cleared escrow, they'll be wired from, typo there, to the note pool seller's account as outlined in the loan sale agreement. Lender will simultaneously fund their portion of the purchase price on the closing date. Real wordy way of saying it's going to close is just like a traditional loan. You have your down payment in there, and then the lender is going to come to the table with the loan on that. A couple of questions here. Hold on. Yes, Mahmood, I'll go back to that. Caroline, yeah, we'll be posting this up in the next couple of days once we finalize it. So yeah, Val, the minimum loan amount is going to be $250,000. One time, yes, this is going to be on a single pool purchase. You have to buy $325,000 purchase, and of that, $250,000 will be the loan. Okay. Can the Florida LLC be a foreign LLC? That's a good question, Mark. Let me find that one out. Florida LLC, a foreign. When you say a foreign LLC, foreign as in from another state. I'm in California. I'm opening up a Florida LLC. I'm a foreign. Technically, I'm an out-of-state foreign entity. Is that what you're referring to, Mark? Another state, yes, that is correct. So that's how it's set up like that. So that's why it's specifically going to be set up as a Florida. With me being a California LLC, my California LLC will own the Florida LLC at whatever given time. So yeah, another good question there. Chris, yes, exactly. So that becomes a, $327,500 loan, or whatever that kind of breaks down to. Again, guys, minimum loan amount, not minimum purchase price. Minimum loan amount is $250,000. Again, that could be 2 notes, it could be 20 notes. It's got the minimum loan amount, not the purchase price, is $250,000. So that represents 65%. Okay, well, let me go through more of this, and we'll hit some more questions. Oops. Hup. Hold on, now I'm messing it up here. Here we go. Okay, we did that. First, okay, we did that. Okay, we close. What are my responsibilities? Guess what? You're now the asset manager. Time to get to work. Asset manager responsibilities, transfer of servicing. Now, again, a lot of this is pretty simple stuff that we all most of us on this call know about it. There are, quite a few new people, so let's just go through it for the benefit of that. This is all standard servicing stuff here. No later than 15 days prior to the servicing transfer date, it is the asset manager's responsibility to engage, in this case, FCI Lender Services for loan servicing. The following documents must be completed and submitted to lender for signature: truth in lending ownership transfer notice checklist, foreclosure prevention alternatives form, loan servicing setup form. These are all the standard documents that go out anyway. Once the loan setup has been completed, a transfer of servicing letter must be issued for each loan filed by FCI Lender Services. Forced place insurance. The asset manager will establish forced place insurance policies for each mortgage file outlined on the mortgage loan schedule. For those of you that have seen my presentations where I talk about our forced place insurance or lender insurance, that's what they're talking about. It ensures you as the lender that if the Superman goes flying through the house and the house gets destroyed, that insurance is going to cover those damages. It's not the homeowner's insurance, but it's your lender insurance. I'm not going to read through this. This is all general. This is all general stuff that's covered on all the policies that you're going to see anyway on this. So again, forced place insurance is required. For those of you that are using FCI, the other ones will be following suit. OSC Insurance, who we use directly, they're setting up with those servicers so that the servicers can place that insurance for you at a much lower cost than you going directly to OSC as a smaller investor. The larger funds, obviously we get, we're doing a lot of volume, so we get pretty good rates, but the small guys might not. So you'll be able to take advantage of that through FCI or through Land, Home, or whichever companies are actually setting up with them. So we can talk more about that later, but that's part of that equation. Attorney engagement. The asset manager will be tasked with the responsibility of engaging a board-certified attorney to litigate the foreclosure proceeding on lender's behalf. Obviously, this is if the property is going to be going to foreclosure. For mortgage files which are subject to pending foreclosure, bankruptcy, or other litigation proceedings, the following responsibilities of the asset manager apply. Within 30 days after the servicing transfer date, the asset manager will conduct the following responsibilities at the asset manager's sole cost. And obviously, this is part of that reserve account we were talking about. Notify the appropriate court officer, foreclosure bankruptcy trustee of the new ownership. Again, this all makes sense stuff. You're going to let them know that you're the new owner of the mortgage loan. File pleadings to substitute counsel unless the counsel is being retained. Substitute the new ownership entity as part of the interest. So again, it's anything you would do as if you were buying the loan under your name or buying it under a different entity. So this is all normal stuff. Loan workout management. The most important role of the asset manager is to secure a successful resolution to the loan settlement process. It is the asset manager's job to secure a successful resolution to the loan settlement process. It is the asset manager's job to ensure that foreclosure is moving forward in a timely manner, with periodic updates provided to the lender upon request. So again, they're entrusting you to manage the assets. Upon request, they just want to make sure that, that they might want a pipeline report. If you have 20 loans that, you have in your portfolio loan, maybe once a month, you'll send them a report saying, here's where everything's kind of at. Same as if you had an outside investor, you're going to send them reports on where you're, on what's happening with the individual deals. Okay, hold on. We hit that. We hit that. So how much of a down payment is required? They're going to lend 65% of the purchase price, therefore 35% down payment. Do we get a chance to pick the property, states, occupancy status, so we're given a pool? Yeah, this is, so Chris, this has nothing to do with them providing any notes to you. You are going to get your source from whatever sources you're buying from. You're going to aggregate your purchases, and maybe it's from a couple of different sellers, and you're going to present those notes for your financing. So you're going to get whatever whether you're going to Watermark, whether you're coming to me, whether you're going to Granite, whether you're going to Cantor Fitzgerald, whoever it may be. You're going to aggregate your loans. You're going to do all of your due diligence to make sure that these are loans you want to buy, and then you're going to go for the financing. Hopefully that makes sense. Will the loan cover servicing costs? No, it does not. So back to what I was talking about in the beginning, they're going to come in with 65% of the financing, and then besides your 35% down payment, you're going to set up a reserve account based on what you estimate it's going to be costing to be able to service and get those loans through to the finish line, and you're going to set that up, or at least a portion of that up, into an escrow account to cover all those. So it does not cover servicing costs. That's part of you as an investor having those. If you got $100,000 to spend, don't spend $100,000 on the assets. Spend $65,000 on the assets. Keep $35,000 for contingencies and servicing costs and things of that nature. Hopefully that makes sense. Sid, how fast can you close? These will probably take a week to 10 days, depending on A, how many deals are in the pipeline, B, how many assets are in the deal. Because when you think about it, it's going to be a function of getting BPOs, lien reports. I mean, again, we're not looking at borrowers, entities, or anything like that. And setting up a Florida LLC is probably a 2 to 3 day process. So I would say probably a week to 10 days. So your conversation with your sellers is going to be, here's my down payment. It's an escrow, and we're putting financing together. And, we'll need an extra, we need a week to 10 days to close, something along those lines. Yeah, Mahmood, they are non-recourse. Remember, you're not borrowing the money. The loans are borrowing the money. I do believe, and I'm waiting for clarification, that we can use self-directed IRA funds for that. I'm like 99% sure that we can. So I'll give you a definitive on that as well. Liquid for foreclosure. Is 35% of the funds a good rule of thumb to keep liquid for foreclosure? What would that include the 10% that was required? 35% is probably high. What we use here, if we're buying an asset for, let's say anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, let's just use a low end asset, and it's in the state of Indiana. I would probably keep about $5,000, between $3,000 and $5,000, let's say on a $20,000 asset. So maybe 25%. And that's for, foreclosing. That's for doing a cleanup. That's for doing, just various smaller things. But if you figured, again, depending on the size of the asset you're looking at, 35 might be a good number to play with. Is there a minimum percentage for servicing escrow? You know what? That Dan, re-ask that question. That doesn't make sense to me. Does lender have any rights of approval of assets? Well, they're going to look at BPOs if it's a real, pardon my French, crappy property, and it doesn't look, and again, they're going to look at what your exit strategy is going to be. They might kick that one out. So I would say try to get, and again, it has nothing to do with dollar amounts. And this is by Val. The question is from Val, who was on the road show this weekend. We saw some properties that, probably needed more work than we wanted to put into it. So that would not be something that I would put in front of them because, again, even though they're not appraising the property, they're trusting you as the investor to be able to take it through your resolution. I would say, yes, they do have a right of approval. They're not going to take everything, but just, I think the right answer is use common sense. Who's responsible for getting the BPO's taxes that come out of our 35%? So I'm assuming BPOs, you're talking about the beginning of BPOs, you're going to be getting those before you even come to the table for a loan. Sid, on taxes, do you mean taxes owed? Answer me back on that. Kind of just answer this. Does the lender require having a minimum amount set aside? Yes, I talked about that in the beginning, Dan. There's going to be a contingency account to cover all the servicing to make sure that you didn't spend all of your money buying assets and then you don't have enough money to finish the foreclosure or whatever. Taxes owed, no, that's going to be separate from the, actually, hold on, let me read that back again. So Sid, tax, yeah, so that's not part of the tax. You're going to factor that in on top of, so again, each asset's going to be different. You might have, we looked at an asset day before yesterday that this house was worth about $10,000. It had about $10,000 in sewer liens on it. So that's going to be above and beyond where you're going to set aside for contingency. Remember, contingency is not going to include any of the stuff that you might have to either pay on the property or negotiate away, whether it be a second, a judgment, or something like that. Contingency is going to be your cost for foreclosing, servicing, loss mitigation. Look at it just from that perspective. Yes, 10% is what they're wanting. And again, that's for, so Dan's saying, and the percentage is 10%. That is correct. 10% of your purchase price is set aside for servicing costs. Servicing, let's just call it servicing costs. Now, again, if it ends up being more than that as you're going, you're obviously responsible for that. On a $250,000 loan, what is the typical cost of all of the fees? No idea, Mike. It's going to be depending on how many assets. Again, you got the numbers on there. $100 a BPO, $25 for a collateral review, and $25 for for an abbreviated O&E. So figure $150 per property. Factor that into what, and plus points, obviously. Just factor that into whatever you got there. If that makes sense. Can I use this funding to quickly flip the notes? Absolutely. Yeah. So again, you're borrowing the money for as long as you need it. If your model is to buy 20 notes at 15 cents on the dollar and then turn around and sell them at 25 cents on the dollar, you get that finance. Make sure you got your 35%, purchase price and your contingencies, because you're going to want to start doing what needs to be started, whether it be foreclosure or whatever, loss mitigation. And then as you sell them, you're going to pay your loan off. Real simple. It's actually perfect for that. That's why I said in the beginning, think of it as your fix and flip money, because that's ideally what this is really made for, not really long term. But you would be wise to have more for contingency. Yeah, again, Dan, that's going to be deal by deal. You're going to look at a deal. You're going to kind of eyeball what you figure it's going to cost. If you know you got $2,000 in taxes, you got a second mortgage that's going to take $1,500 to make go away. If you think you might have cash for keys of $1,000, factor all that in. Make sure you have that. Again, it doesn't need to go into the escrow account. Just make sure you have it. All they care about is the 10% to cover the servicing and loss mitigation. Deal by deal, asset by asset, you're going to have to figure out what you're actually going to need for that deal. And that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today, because everybody's got a different model on how that works. Do we have to get a BPO before presenting assets for financing, then pay for another BPO with your third party? No, you're more than able to bring the assets and just pay for those BPOs with the third party, and then you just use that as the definitive BPO. If you're somebody that knows the area, you know the asset, you could use the Trulias, the Zillows, the e-appraisals, whatever. You come up with your value. By all means, if you want to use that third party, to go ahead and do that. That's actually a wise way to do it. If you don't have a BPO. On the $250,000 loan, is it correct that the purchaser brings 35%, 162.5 plus 10% for the escrow? That is not correct, Ryan. The minimum loan amount is $250, which makes the minimum purchase price $300 and whatever, $325, or right around there. Remember, final minimum loan amount $250,000. Dan's got it. Oh, crap. Mahmoud, I just accidentally deleted your last question, not the one that said when you get a chance during the presentation. Resend me the one that I missed. Sorry about that. Mahmoud, you've just been deleted. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Chris, I'm going to find out the answers on that document charge. And then go back to page 1. So let's go back. Mahmoud asked me to go back to page 1. Whoops. Let's make that page 2. There we go. The terms of the loan. So again, let's reiterate that. So again, from the top over there, maximum leverage is 65% of collateral purchase price. Minimum loan size, $250,000. Loan term, 12 months. There will be one 12-month renewal option. Now remember, even though it's a 12-month renewal option, you don't have to keep the loan for 12 months. If you only keep it for 1 month or 2 months, that's fine. If you end up flipping your assets and getting out of it, more the power to you. That's awesome. Interest only, so then you're not paying any principal back. All principal will be paid back through the payoff of the loan. And then interest only, monthly payments will be made. Escrow account to be 10% of the loan balance held, with drawdown for servicing and insurance costs. That cover you good over there, Mahmoud? Here's Mahmoud's second question. Yeah, so I'm sorry, that's the one I already answered. So yeah, again, I'm 99% sure qualified retirement funds can be used since it is a non-recourse loan. The owner of the 35% equity can be, and again, I'll get the final blessing on it, but I'm 99% sure that could be your IRA, can be the buyer of the 35% equity. Because self-directed IRAs do allow financing on that. So that's how this kind of plays in. And again, remember, your IRA is technically not borrowing the money because we have a repurchase agreement. The lender is actually going to be owning it until it's done, and then you're getting title to it. So we're pretty sure this works into that situation very well. But again, I'll get full clarification on that. No, there's no delay on interest, month of delay on interest. So Chris asks, can we get a month or so delay on interest, or is start from day one? You start accruing interest day one, you won't have a payment due until day 30. So yeah, they're not going to give you free money for 30 days. Okay, Nancy writes 2 questions with no questions. Come on, Nancy. You're welcome, Mahmoud. There's number 1. Is the 14% annualized? Yes. So it's an annualized simple interest. And I'm not seeing Nancy's second question. Okay, so William writes, sounds like a radio show now. So William from St. Louis writes, I don't know where William's from actually. Okay, so you recommend 25 to 35% of pool purchase price for servicing in addition to the 10% of loan and escrow for servicing and insurance. No, 25 to 35% is not for servicing. That would be what I would consider. And again, when you look at an asset, you'll know what that number is. If you've got defaulted taxes, if you've got a second mortgage that you're going to have to negotiate and pay something to make that go away, that's what I'm talking about, the 25 to 35%. Your actual foreclosure costs, Loss mitigation costs, you're going to look at that as a not as a percentage, but a dollar amount, because some of you buy $500 and $1,000 assets, me included, and some of you buy $100,000 to $200,000 to $300,000 assets, where those costs could be the same. So I don't recommend looking at it as a percentage, because everybody on this call's model is a little bit different on what you're actually buying. Hopefully that makes sense. What is the highest you can go to loan value? We're capping it at $1 million right now, but we'll see. Nancy's getting pretty aggressive. I like that. Are there points involved in the 12-month renewal? Yeah, I think it's either 1 or 2 points. I'll have the full clarification when we roll it out in Noteworthy. Again, a couple of these little pieces are missing. Can you pay off part of the loan and renew the remainder? There's nothing to renew. So you buy 10 assets, you end up foreclosing. Let's just say you end up foreclosing and taking as REO 3 of them, and then you sell them. You're going to take those proceeds and pay down your loan. You still owe X amount left. So it's not like it's amortizing where anything needs to be renewed. You're just going to keep selling assets till you pay off the loan. So there really is nothing to renew unless you got to the end of your 12-month period and you send your second 12-month extension. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, good. No, I mean for each note. Crap. Which question was that, Nancy? I already deleted it. Okay. Okay, then Bill's back to if I pay. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. So Nancy, hold on. Let me do this like this. I mean, for each note, so Nancy was loan to value. I'm still losing you there, Nancy. Sorry. And just put the whole question in there again for me, and I'll pop right on it. No, Mahmood, no seconds. We're not crazy. And take that for what it's worth. We're not crazy that we would lend on seconds. Seconds are a great business. A lot of guys are making great money on them, but that's nothing that I think you'll ever find a lender that'll lend on. And yes, we bought our first seconds too, so we're just as crazy. Yeah, Nancy, I have, for example, California is a 675. Not sure what that means. Okay, can I extend the 125? So Bill, let's go back to Bill. If I pay down 125 of a 250 loan, why would you extend it? Give me an example on why you would need to extend it, since it's already just interest only in the period, and give me a little driving force on why you're thinking to do that. No, Nancy. So Nancy's asking if California is at 75% purchase price. Is that 75? Is that at 75% purchase price? Will you lend? I'm not getting your question, Nancy. Sorry. Yeah, no, Nancy. It's 65% max. Doesn't matter, California. We've come up to the year mark. So if the same assets are in that loan, Bill, I understand your question now, and you come up to that year, they're not going to just do just extend it. It's going to be cheaper to extend it than to put it into a new loan, because a new loan, you're going to be paying the new 3 to 4 points. To extend it, it's going to be 1 to 2 points. So you just keep that same loan going or add more assets into it. Hopefully that makes sense. So I borrow for 1 year, pay down half, and then can extend the other half. Yes, correct. Got it. Okay. Nancy, so if I wanted to buy a California note for 75% of value, will you loan the money? Nancy, you will be able to borrow 65% of that 75%. Does that make sense? Doesn't matter what percent of value it is, they will lend 65% of your purchase price. 65% of the purchase price. Ditch that. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Let me clean some of these out. Okay, answered that. Okay, so Dan did some math for us here. So my math shows that the minimum buy would be about 385,000 with a minimum loan of 250 and $10,000 for points, with at least 38,500 in escrow, plus 5,000 plus per asset for plus 5,000 plus per asset for foreclosure or other loss mitigation. So minimum comes out to a buyer needs 183,000 plus the 5K or so per asset for loss mid funds. I'd have to dig through the numbers. That sounds a little. Let me see, 10,000 per points on the 250. So that's four. That's that. 10. No, so your first 10% of the loan amount. So if the loan amount's 250, your 10% is going to be 25,000, not 38.5. The 5K per asset, that's not required in there. Make sure you have it on the side if you need it. Again, depending on what your loss mitigation strategy is, you might have bought a pool of loans that are mods in process, and you're not going to need any of that. So I don't want to tie that into what's needed for the loan, because that might not be needed for a lot of loans, especially depending on what somebody's model is, if that makes sense. 4 points for 250 is 10K. Correct. You had that right. The 10% contingency you had on the 385,000. I was saying that 10% of 250 is 25,000. Is there a contact at FCI that we can reach out to for an estimate of servicing costs? Just go to their website. It's trustfci.com. Trustfci.com. And one thing about FCI, they're not the nicest people to talk. I just say they're not the nicest. They will keep referring you to the website. So just go to the website. They have a pretty intuitive website. You'll be able to see everything you need on there. Just as a rule of thumb, we use them for what do you call it? Minimum servicing, which is $30 a month. They have their I can't remember what they call it, but their high touch servicing, which is like 75 or $85 a month, but they're horrible at that. So we just use them for their servicing, their licensing, and then we use other sources to do the actual loss mitigation. Okay, let's take a minute here. Whoops, crap. Sorry. Let's go back, finish this document while you guys are asking more questions. Good questions, by the way, group. So we talked about that. We talked about it, the asset manager responsibilities. So here's your closing checklist. Let's go that real quick. Then this will be the last thing, I think. Then we'll just go finish up the questions and get everybody off to their evening. Okay, so closing checklist, organization and financial docs. You're going to have a certificate of good standing. You're going to have the articles of organization. You're going to have the operating agreement, certificate of encumbrancy, and taxpayer ID. That's for the new Florida LLC. So all that's done when you're in the process of getting the loan done, and that's very simple stuff. Collateral information. We're going to have loan purchase and sale and interim servicing agreement. We're going to have the exemption report from Richmond Monroe. We're going to have the open lien and title search from Richmond Monroe. We're going to get a BPO. We're going to get a mortgage. We're going to have the mortgages and all of the assignments. We're going to have the notes and all of the allonges. We're going to have the foreclosure litigation files if one exists. We're going to have closing settlement statements. We're going to have servicing agreements put in place with FCI. And we're talking about adding a couple of different servicers as well. We'll keep you guys posted on that. You're going to get forced place insurance commitment. Again, that'll come from FCI or your servicer. Or if you're a bigger guy and you already have your insurance, the list is on there. It's probably the same coverage you already have. You'll just have to get the commitment from your existing insurance. You're going to have your attorney engagement letter if you're going to be doing foreclosure. Your repurchase documents. You're going to have a repurchase agreement. Mortgage loan sales schedule. That's the list of the assets. We're going to have a loan servicing and insurance escrow agreement. We're going to have an amendment to operating agreement. The amendment to operating agreement is what allows them to turn the properties back over to you once the loan is paid off. We're going to have a guarantee agreement, an asset management agreement, and a settlement statement, period. So that's it for the document. That's it. That's pretty much the overview of what we've got going on here. The last couple of pieces of the puzzle will be coming into play, finalized here in the next couple of days. We do have the first couple of loans in the pipeline right now. It's my own, so we're kind of just testing out the wheels to see if any, any hiccups pop up. And so again, as you can see, it's not like a borrower applying for a loan. It's pretty simple, cut and dry stuff. So we'll be ready to close that here pretty soon. And then getting the first ones in from you guys. Okay, so we got a bunch of questions here. So the 25,000 for the escrow account comes off the top, so only 225 actually left for assets. No, any of the escrow accounts and any of that stuff is on top of your purchase price. Look at it this way, Val. If you have $250,000 cash, forget about a loan. You're not going to spend $250,000 on the assets. You're going to spend $200,000 for the assets. This way, you have $50,000 left to do the actual workouts or whatever's going to need to be happen on it. So look at this loan the same as your cash. So just figure everything. The loan is the loan. Everything else that goes on top of it is what you need to bring in cash. What is certificate of encumbrancy? I didn't see it. Was that on there? Let me see. That's something to do with the LLC. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's one of the LLC documents. You can get foreclosure litigation files prior to close. Dan, are you asking that question? You can get foreclosure litigation files prior to close? So in other words, if you're buying a loan from a seller, the seller has it in foreclosure, that should be part of the file that they're turning over to you. I'm assuming that's what you're asking, Dan. Mahmoud, we are not taking any questions regarding version 2 of NoteWorks today. Mahmoud is chomping at the bit for version 2. Mahmoud, if you're going to NoteWorks, we have a full demo that we'll be doing over there, and then we should be ready with the online webinars by next week sometime. Stay excited. It's awesome stuff. Do we use our own purchase and sale agreement, or is this provided? It's going to be a different purchase and sale agreement for this, specifically for these loans that you're going to be using financing on. Whose high touch workout were you saying you would stay away from? FCI. Dan, you're my hero. Recommendation for loss mitigation servicer. Our favorite servicer of the day is Mr. Joel Markovitz from Land Home Servicing. And those of you that use Joel, even like a year ago, they had some issues at the time. They've gotten their proverbial crap together, and they're doing really well right now. So we're very happy with them. So that's who I would be using. Mahmoud, thank you as always. All right, so it's 2:56. Any other questions? Looks like we burnt through, and lots of great questions, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll stick around on here for till 3 o'clock exactly, another 3 minutes. Any other questions pop up? If not, if you guys are coming to Noteworthy, definitely stop by the booth. I think we'll be right next to Scott's got like the biggest booth there. I think we're right next to him. Just search me out. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the bald guy. So just find me and say hello, and we'll talk about all the good stuff we got going on. I'm not going to put your name out there, but somebody just said I'm leaving FCI and going to Land Home. I spoke with Mr. Markovitz today. Good decision. Carolyn, see you. Definitely stop by. Thanks, Val. Take care. When you post this document, will you be including minimum capital needed to qualify for a loan? Minimum capital needed to qualify for a loan. Let me think about how to answer that. The minimum capital to qualify for a loan is going to be the 35% of the purchase price, leaving a loan amount of $250,000, plus whatever you're going to need for, plus of course, hold on a second. Excuse me. Plus your 10% reserve, plus whatever realistically you're going to need to dispose properly of your asset. And by dispose properly, if you're going to take it to foreclosure, know what your costs in that state are going to be and have that there. If you're going to have taxes due, if, whatever it may be, make sure that you've got, and I'll probably, what I'll probably do is we'll have a follow-up webinar where we'll talk a little bit more about this, because there's a lot of different people have different strategies and different numbers, and I don't want to just put out what I do. So maybe we'll come up with a little panel that'll be able to kind of talk about what each individual's kind of business model looks for on what to actually keep in reserve there. Because obviously you want to deploy as much capital as you can to get assets, but you also don't want to over deploy where you're left short and you're not able to pay the bills for your guys that are doing the work for you. Hopefully that makes sense. I still don't understand the FCI role in this if we are using land home. So I'm going to be getting other services added in. When I first spoke to these guys about putting this program together, which, yes, I'm the one that helped put this program together, Dan. I said, FCI, because FCI was the first one that we were integrating with Noteworks. So it made sense to try to tie it together with that, but we'll be adding in a few more as well. So don't worry about that. Got it. Thank you, William. Bless you too. Ryan, bless you too. Looks like I need another calculator on my website. Did you find a mistake, Dan? Yes, Val, we'll touch on all that. Thank you, Dan. You too. Dan, are you going to Noteworthy? Hit me back on that. Also, if you found a mistake on something, let me know. Oh, no calculators to figure this out. Yeah, I'll start working on that in my spare time. That's funny. Oh, we'll miss you there, man. That's a good idea. Put together a little calculator for that. Loan calculator. Great. Another night of no sleep. All right, gang, it's 3:00. Thanks again for those of you that are left. Thanks for hanging out and listening and hit us back with any questions. Actually, one last question here. $87,500 is a large chunk of cash. What do you suggest for people who don't have that? They can get an investor, though they will be paying over 20% plus interest. Any suggestions besides friends and family? You got to find the right deals that are going to turn the right ROIs at, and you go ahead and again, going back to what Scott teaches in his class, which we don't have enough time to go through that whole exercise now because I don't have the document. I don't have the spreadsheet to be able to show you. But again, if you've got deals that you're going to make, it's oftentimes that I make 100% return on my deals. Not all of them, of course, but I'll make 100% return. Well, if I have to factor in, giving, maybe I find an IRA investor that I'm going to pay, 8 to 12% for short-term money. So I know that he's going to be getting 12% of that profit. And now I know going into it that I'm going to factor in cost for financing. You just have to look at your deal. So the answer is yes, it is a large amount. But again, there's a lot of people with a lot more than that. There's a lot of people trying to start out. So this might, again, nobody take this the wrong way. This is big boy financing here. You got to make sure that you can get ready to play with the big boys. And when I say with the big boys, you're looking at buying anywhere from 5 to 20 assets at one time. Make sure you're ready for that. And if you are ready for that, you probably have access to some capital partners or joint venture partners, maybe a couple of people, piggyback together. Scott's, for you guys that are still on, any of Scott's students, at the roadshow this weekend, we had people coming together on deals as well. So don't try to look at it as a big amount of money to come up. Again, there's profits in there. You might have to part with some of the profits to get the right players to come play with you. Each deal is different, so there's no easy way to answer that, Chris. But just again, find capital, find self-directed IRA money. There's trillions of dollars of self-directed IRA money out there that's earning 0.02% or 1% or 2%. That would be absolutely ecstatic to be able to earn 8 to 10% on a safe real estate investment like that. and now you just got your money pretty cheaply. So hopefully that wasn't a pompous way of answering that. It wasn't meant to be if it was. Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow, Drew and Michelle. Let's see some more, blah, blah, blah. Boy, that one we already answered. So trying to partner with multiple people will not be considered as pooling according to the SEC. Ryan, you're going to want to consult an SEC attorney to answer that question. I'll leave that one at that. This is not talking about pooling. It's not blind pools. We're talking about buying a defined number of assets with a partner or two partners that are going to be equal partners or something. So in my eyes, that's not pooling. That's not pooling. But on anything dealing with that, ask an attorney a question. When does this roll out? We got the first loans in process now. This document should be out for public next couple of days, and we'll be talking more about it out at Noteworthy if you're going to be at Noteworthy, William. If not, we'll be sending out. And by the way, for those of you that are still on, we lost about half of you already. I sent out Facebook. Depending on how you found out about this, if you're not if you're not on our regular email list, you'll want to just join that bid list I showed you on Note.guru. This way you get the emails, because sometimes we might miss a group if you're on here because I posted this on a group on Facebook. That was kind of a last minute thing. We don't normally do that, so you want to make sure you're on one of our lists. Are there requirements on the loan mod? Not sure what that question is. Great, thanks. Yeah, Carolyn, Facebook is if I put it out on Facebook, but if you got one of our emails, that's how we traditionally communicate, so don't worry about it. Does your closing checklist include getting a lender's title policy? Nope. Original lender's title policy, yes, not a new lender's title policy. And that's on there. This presentation is being recorded, as long as I didn't screw that up, and I will have it posted on the Note.guru site. Yeah, Drew, Michelle, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking about other requirements on the loan mod. Drew here. The loan mod, must it be generated by license someone, a specific firm? I'm not going to cover that here because, yes, loan mods must be generated by a licensee, so you don't do it yourself. And typically your loss mitigation companies, whether it be Land, Home, FCI, or any of those, they're licensed to do that. All right, gang, I got to bounce. It's 3:06. Thanks again. Any other questions, shoot me an email, and we will look forward to seeing you guys in Vegas. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.